Okay, we're here again. Hello, hello, hello. Got the old canvas primed with liquid white. It's wet and slick. And I even sketched a little bit. I'm going to do a simple little Smoky Mountain scene today. I was looking through some old photos and I found some that I did, or one that I did, I guess I should say, several years ago. And I wanted to try it again. So I thought I'd do it here. So I'm going to take a 1-inch brush. The colors I've got out are titanium white, Prussian blue, and phthalo blue, burnt umber, Indian yellow, crimson, and burnt sienna. So that's what I'm using. You can use, just because I'm using those doesn't mean you have to use the exact same color. So like for burnt umber, you could use a Van Dyke brown. I like burnt umber way better. If we're talking about a brown being pretty, burnt umber is the way to go, a dark brown. So I'm going to take a little bit, it's going to be weird to start with, a little bit of Indian yellow just up here. You can see I sketched a little bit. I always try to sketch when I'm doing the foothills and the Smokies because I sometimes will get in patterns where I'll have like 3 that run pretty similar, and I was trying to get away from that. I probably changed that a little bit. It's a little too close, but I was just playing around with a pencil. It was a colored pencil actually. I think it's a blue or black, I can't see here. Alright, just something like that. Put a little bit of yellow up there in your sky. We really won't see any yellow here just in a second. I'm going to use yellow, and then I'm going to go right with the same brush to some crimson. And this is, you don't really need to see me doing this. You guys, unless you're beginner, I guess you may need to see it, but I'm just going over here when I'm not painting on the canvas. I'm going over here and grabbing some paint and loading on the brush. That's it. Nothing magical. I'm going to start up here and work this down. I need a little more there. So this paint I put out last night and I didn't get time to paint. So it's still wet. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a little sticky. A little bit of crimson here, just let them meet somewhere. Let them meet in the middle. Grab me a little more here. I really want that crimson to show through, and where I've got that orange, or sorry, the yellow on my brush, it's kind of getting too orange all of a sudden. There's a little better. There we go. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this sky. I'm going to stop here, and I just kind of overlap those colors. You can see those strokes. I'm going to wipe my brush out once I find my paper towel I had. And then I'm going to blend a little bit. And as I've always said in classes, painting is one thing, blending is another. Blending to me is almost you're just tickling the canvas with the brush. You're not using the same amount of pressure on the brush all the time. So you want to back off on the pressure. You want to just imagine yourself just tickling that canvas with the brush, barely touching. Sometimes you have to blend a little bit harder. There's, once you get a little experience, you'll know what you need. But I know when I first started, I thought the same amount of pressure every time I touched the canvas was the way to go. So I'm going to go in here with a slightly dirty brush. And I'm just going to let these colors mix together. I'm going to bring that crimson. I don't really want to see yellow. I want it to be kind of an orangey color, an apricot-y color down in here near my foothills. And then we're going to make it even darker here just in a second. Something like that I think will work. We'll try something real quick, guys. I've got several of my brushes. I've got an old Alexander laying here too, and we'll use that. There. I wanted a little more crimson up in that sky. I'm going to just bring that on down. I want this to be, like I said, a burnt orangey look. I could have used cat orange even. It'd probably be pretty. But I wanted to try this. Try that. Okay, leave that about there. And then I'm going to go over here, and I may take the camera and show you what I've got mixed up here just in a second. But for right now, I need a little touch of crimson and a little touch of blue. And you know what I'm going to make. A little lavender color. Nothing to it. Nothing you really have to see. Mixed up. Mix it fairly good. I like more crimson in my mixture when I do a lavender than I do blue. Blue's way stronger. I always keep mine to the red side. Sometimes almost too red. There. Just a purple color. And I can always test it up here before I really get down to using it. Yeah. There we go. Okay. We'll just take that same old dirty brush here. And I'm going to come up here and I'll start saying, do I like this color? See, yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I didn't mix up enough, but that'll work. I'm going to put it all over the top. Just like that. I've got to mix me up just a tad more. I apologize. Make up a good bit. I don't need any more crimson the rest of the day. One of these days, if I keep these videos up, I'll get a second camera on my palette. But a lot of people would say that this is where the painting really starts here, right? That matters to be able to see that canvas, or that palette, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. Really nice and dark. Really nice and dark. This is a sunset scene. You kind of have to decide if you like these colors. You could just use crimson and this color, you know, whatever you want to call it, purple, whatever. And I'm going to grab, I always get mine somewhere like that, and then I'll just take a brush and blend a little bit. I've got that sky nice and dark at the top, and I'll watch here in a second. I'll show you what I'll do. Maybe tap that out a little bit. There we go. Take my fan brush that I've got. And I always come up here and I make some little clouds, and I kind of just go in here. You can see the brush won't really stop moving, and I'm really just kind of putting more paint up there, and then I roll. So I start here. Usually anytime I do clouds, I start with the whole brush and just kind of sock it in there, kind of sock it right in there, and then I get back up on my corner. You can see that corner move, and that's, you know, how I finish out the clouds. That's whether I'm doing these or other clouds. It doesn't really matter. You can see me, I'm rolling back to that corner. Maybe a little more in here. Maybe I'm gonna make it a little more cloudy than my original. I like these clouds kind of coming in. You can do clouds any way you want. You can have just floating clouds right in the sky. I always kind of like my clouds are like hands reaching out. I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't ask me, you might not get an answer you like, you know. I might not know the answer either. So, but you can do whatever you want on your clouds. And there's no white clouds today. This is all dark. It's a dark, stormy day here in Tennessee, so this painting will work perfect. These little stringy things down in here, even, who knows. If you don't like them, you can always get rid of them. I'm going to tell you one thing I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to change my mind on one thing before I go too far with it. I have a touch of cat orange left in my little tube here. One of the colors I keep on hand, you could mix it with yellow and red, but I use it way more than I probably should. So I just usually use it. Oh, I had to clean my brush first. Alright, this is a good teaching moment. You ever get something like that, just wipe it out. Look at that. Go. I'll go to a clean brush. Let's see if we can't get some nice orange. I want more orange in there. It's a little too something for me. There. Oh yeah. There we go. I don't care if I touch that little bit of purple that I've got in the sky. Right around the horizon. I'm not worried about it being too... That's the color I was wanting right there, guys. Because it'll work with the colors I'm using for the rest of the painting. Yeah. Heck, I'll just use that to blend. I'm just going to knock these clouds down. I'm not really going to blend them out too much. I'm just going to kind of stir up the paint a little bit. I don't want to spend all day on this sky. It's not that important. You can see how little of the sky there is. There. I mean, something You know, something like this. I tap a little bit in here. There we go. And then if I was really wanting to be super sure I liked it, I could take my little blender brush, one of mine, and just kind of go in here and just knock these down even more if I wanted to. I don't really know that I need to. I want to get rid of that harsh line at the top though. Yeah, yeah. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. See, I love that, I didn't mean to touch right there. I love that orange. I could use orange all the time. Get myself in trouble with it. You know. So you don't have to use orange. You could use, like I said, straight crimson if you wanted to. Won't hurt. Okay, so 1 second. I'm going to pause my video while I'm recording, and it's on my tripod. And I'm going to hopefully not throw my chair on my dogs. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to show you my palette. Alright, it's maybe a little shaky, but there's my 3 values of blue that I'm going to use for the foothills. And I may adjust them as I go, but all that mixture that you're seeing is created by using more blue in each little pile. And I use both blues, phthalo blue and Prussian blue. I also threw crimson in each pile. You can barely tell that. Tiny little bits, tiny little bit. And then I either used burnt umber or burnt sienna, depending on what I wanted from each pile. Just a very little bit. It kind of dulls the blue down. It also can give it a little bit of a green cast to it, and that's kind of what I wanted. Now let's get rid of the shaky video and go back. Okay, now you gotta see my palette, see what I'm using, and play with your mixtures. The only thing that matters up here, the only thing that matters is that you have 3 different values of paint. Doesn't matter that it matches mine. Mine might not be very pretty, so you know, play with yours and see what you get. I'm going to take, I've already got my brush pretty dirty. What did I do with my little towel? Oh, there it is. I had to wipe my brush off. I'll just use this Alexander one. I taught a class Friday after Thanksgiving, and I forgot and left my brushes sit overnight. I've got a couple of my brushes out there that are as hard as a rock, and I've got to clean them. So we're just going to use that Alexander brush, and I'm going to go to my first color, is that light blue that you saw on my video when I showed you my palette. And I can barely see my little outline. So like I said, it doesn't really matter that much that you follow it. It was more for me just to kind of get a start. So I think I see it about right here. Something about right there. And you could use a fan brush for this. Don't think you have to use this 1-inch brush if you don't want to. Put a little more hilly action in there. Okay, and then I want to bring that color down. I love that blue. Blue against the orange. You know me, and if you know me and orange. We love each other. Well, I don't know if the feeling's mutual or not, but you get it. You get the idea. And there's a little foothill. And you can tap this, tap away, you know. And if you wanted to, you could pull up, but this brush is a little rough. It's an old brush. You can kind of see on mine, I get that naturally, this the way I'm tapping down. Fan brush works just as good for this little scene. And again, if you're trying to get those little rolls, just kind of let your brush kind of, you know, turn your brush a little, or turn your hand even. You don't even have to turn the brush. But yeah, I want it to get lighter as I come down. What did I tell you about my sketch? It's not going to matter because I've already covered up 2 of the rows. Now, I do need another brush that's fairly clean. So you'll want to have a couple of brushes as you're working. Let's see what I've got laying here. I could probably use this one. This one is the one I used in the last video, I think. This is another one of those. Use a 1-inch here or whatever you have. This is just what I have clean here. So I'm just going to tap right in that area. Just right. So I always imagine if I'm trying to make some mist and fog that I'm pushing the white up into the blue and not really letting the blue come down too much. So it's more like you could get in here and just do this even and just kind of fuzz that out. That brush is pretty soft. That'll work. You can tap it. You can tap it and then do that, or you can do both. I'll probably usually, for me, I kind of do both. There we go. Just kind of, and you want some of that color in that white. You never want a white on your, ever, that I know of, on a canvas. So just kind of let that happen, and that's nice and misty in there. And if you're living right, it'll start looking like some mist and fog laying in there too. So that's all we need for the first one. And then I've got to find my next layer, right? Same brush. Shouldn't matter. And this is where we want to test. Even though to my eye, it looks like these are way darker, you know, it may not on the canvas translate. I should say it may not translate on the canvas. There we go. Yeah, I love that little misty action we're getting in there. Kind of turn up. And this is, I didn't love the sky until I get this blue in here with that orangey color. So if it was me and I was here, I mean, I kind of stopped you before we did this too and told you about I added that cat orange. I love cat orange. Don't use too much of it. That one got, yeah, that's a little darker. And as I'm doing a foothill of the Smokies or something, I always try to, these hills are not pointy, they're rounded. You know, you kind of want them to be rounded. And you can play with that shape a little bit. You've got some wiggle room. And I'm just, you've noticed I haven't loaded any more paint yet. I'm just tapping what's here and letting it work for me. And I've got that nice separation between those two. And the big one will come in here, of course. And then we'll have, you know, that much fog probably, I think. And you'll see how it lays out. Because it looks way different than the original. And of course the original I painted when I was just starting out. So I'm not going to show you that one. There, a little more peaky action there. See it? But still got that nice little bit of the white to act as kind of a backdrop to the blue. And it, what's that? I may even just, see that one kind of coming in? Probably will lose that when I put trees in, but I like that for now. And I'm not worried about, when I do one of these, I'm not worried about every little foothill, this one, the second one, having white behind it. I'm just worried about having some of those pockets. It actually looks more natural if you don't try to be so mechanical about it and leave tons of that showing. You need it some places, you don't need it every place. I want this foothill just to be a little, yeah, there. Now see, I've got like those little pockets of white right behind there. Maybe just a little more. They could be a little pointy, like that. You don't want them like, you know, triangles too much. Tap them out a little bit if they get too much. And that's probably just tap you a little bit of color in there. That's probably good. And we'll go back to our, you know, your 1-inch brush if you're doing it with me, or 2-inch brush, or, you know, I probably could have used the brush I put the liquid white on with. But this one's working. So just something, and I'm just kind of pounding on that canvas. It'll sound terrible on the video, you know, just to knock it down a little bit. And then I go in here and I just give it some of this. Whether this is a 1-inch, you know, whether I'm using a 1-inch or not, this is what I'm going to do. You know, can even do a little bit up in here, bring a little more down if you wanted to. And if you can leave some of these, I don't know if they're showing up on the camera, but if you can leave some of this little bits of brush action, when I'm looking at it here on the camera, it's going to be different because I can get to this, you know, I can get over here to the side of the canvas and see without the glare of the light hitting it. I can see little bits of white kind of floating up in here that I didn't intentionally do, but it just happened. So don't lose those, because it looks like fog. If you've ever been to I should show you a picture outside right now. I can barely see maybe 50 feet out. There's so much fog out the window. Maybe 75, but that would be probably the max, you know. So don't overdo this. Just kind of let it be and just stop, right? You just stop and you say, that is perfect. I can live with that. Now we got two nice little foothills. We've got this one a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. And again, I'll go through the colors here real quick. All of these colors are made with the same ones. Phthalo blue, Prussian blue, white, of course. White gets the colors down. And then I also added a little crimson to each pile. I had a little bit of brown. And I know on the last one, so the first two have burnt umber. The last one I actually used burnt sienna to see what it would do. So you could use same brown all the way through. And you know, you just play with them. You could get that to be a little bit more green. But sometimes the mountains around here look a little blue from the distance. You know, you could get a little more crimson in there, make them a little more purple. And you'll see that I probably have, it's really hard to see when you see it on camera. I'm going to add just a touch more crimson even. I want this one to be I want this one to be darker, right? I also want it to be just a little bit more crimsony. Purpley. That may be the better word. I could even use, and I'm playing with just a little bit of the color here. Yeah, not meaning to leave you out of the process. It's just, I'm not going to pick that camera up and hold it while I do that. You guys would be losing your lunch or something. Now, this is one reason I sketched, just so you know. See, this one had a little flow here, and then this one started in, so this one starts with a raised hump. This is an indented hump, and then I go raised right there because I don't have that. I mean, you could always have raised that one up even higher, even just go outside of that one. I kind of like the way I did it. This is where I have to watch myself, because what I'll tend to do is I want to make the same shape. You know, that's why I sketch something like this. Painting the foothills of the Smokies is super easy, nothing to it. Now, I mean, you can spend more time and make them look even better, but they're fairly simple to start out. I could start here. I think what I'm going to do is let this one kind of come down like this at an angle. Yeah, let's try that. So I'll probably have a similar type hump here. Maybe if I can just sketch it a little bit here and just kind of get it started. Okay, something like that. Now I'm going to change that a little bit, of course. Let's see how it's kind of coming down here a little bit. But you see the more purple, the darker color in there? That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Ooh, that's too sharp of an angle. And this will be the biggest part of it right here that we see. And then it'll get more and more, and it'll get more and more fog and mist in it. I have just a few little rolling hills off of it. People in Alaska, when I go up there to paint, I always tell them I live in the Smoky Mountains, and they're like, that's not mountains. And I think I've probably said this on videos before. I always tell them, well, they tell me that the Smokies are older than the mountains here in Alaska. So, you know, whatever you want to say. All right, something like that. Something like that, yeah. And I like this, giving this little bit of an action like this, because that means that mountain's starting to come down, right? Come down towards us. Let's see what we do here. Maybe just a little bit more, actually. On the original, I put some little strike down trees in here. I don't think I'm going to today. In front of this, you know, I had another layer. We'll see when I get it done. I also use a little bit smaller canvas here. Don't know if I mentioned the size of 14 by 18. It's kind of becoming my favorite size to use for these videos. Seems to work out pretty good. Doesn't take me terribly long to run through it, you know, unless I run my mouth a lot. Seems to fit on the camera nice. So, but this can be done on a 4-foot canvas if you wanted to. It's not, you're not set in stone here. The biggest thing for this one is to make sure that you get those layers of color, different. So I can see a difference in that one and that one, and I can see a difference between this one and both of those. So that's really the key. It doesn't matter the color. You could use pink. I probably wouldn't. But guess what? Not my painting. This one gets really misty down here. Yeah, something like Yeah. Kind of sitting down in here, and I can even grab a little bit of that color there. Tap it down in here. A little bit more mist. I love that mist. Now, I'm going to play around with that last one a little bit. I may even get my filbert here in a second. I'll just use this one for now. I want to put a little more pronounced hills on this one because it's closer. So what I want you to imagine as you're painting this one, or as I'm painting it at least, imagine this guy has lost his mind, right? That's what you should always imagine when you're watching me. But seriously, I want you to imagine that this one is here, of course, and then we're going to have a little tree line right here. And it's almost like we're high enough, we're on a bluff looking out at the Smokies. Okay, so this is kind of like, so we'll be up here, and then this is the down. Okay, this will be in the fog that we don't see, so it's kind of like imagine you're up here and it kind of coming down, and then it goes back up, right? And that's kind of what I imagined when I painted this one. But let's just, I'll tell you what, we've got some of that purple land here somewhere. Hold on. I'm going to just make it a little bit darker in a few spots. This will make it look a little more hilly. Now I'm not bringing that all the way down into my fog. I've already done my fog. I'll have to mist this back out a little bit. You could use the filbert for this, and I think I'm just going to stick with the 1-inch brush today. And I'm not being super deliberate about it. I don't want to blend those little marks out that I'm making. This gives this one a little bit more detail, a little bit closer to us, a little bit you know, these are more trees that you're seeing. These are more whatever. You got another little hill off that one. The hills can come different ways. You know, these two can combine. And since I'm not doing I don't think I'm going to do the little strike down trees. Yeah, right here. Maybe just a little bit more right here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, now we'll have to blend that out a little bit more. So let's grab our brush. Again, remember as you're doing it, you don't need a brush that looks like this. This is what I had laying here. I'm just gonna kind of want these to stretch down into the fog. You can use the 1-inch brush for yours. 2-inch brush, whatever you want to grab. Maybe this one. Maybe I will grab a little bit here. Let that stretch down a little bit. There we go. And then here we go. You know, this is where we start just kind of playing a little bit. Figuring out how much. We don't want white. Remember what I said? You don't want white. So I want some of that purpley blue to come on down here and make it, you know, not white. The best way to put that. You also don't want a lot of color, so I want it to be bright, foggy looking. So I really don't want to grab too much. And I'm going to grab just a hint on my brush here. Oh, that's too much. I already know that's too much. Let's just see. Yeah, that'll work. I just need a little bit of something in here. And I may try something here just in a second. See what I think. Don't really need much more than that. Kind of here. Again, this is a simple scene, but if you like the Smokies, it may be one you want to do. You want to practice these little foothills. It's a great way to do that. Look at the little fog and mist. That's the key. Keeping those little bits of, you know, light playing against the colors behind and in front. So that's kind of just one of those things to play around with a little bit. That has orange on it, so I'm gonna grab one of my blender brushes. Remember, I had one and blended the sky a little bit. This one is clean. I always have, when I do one of these videos, I always have several brushes to clean afterwards. Oh, look at that! Got a little mark there. I didn't want. there's a thought brewing in my head, and I think I'm going to do it. I don't want many, but right over here I'm going to make another little row coming back this way now. We've gone pretty much this way with this one. Let's bring one back right here. But it's going to be trees. So I'm going to take my fan brush, and I'm going to grab, let's grab a little bit of the dark color we've been using, right? That's our blue. I'm going to put just a little touch of brown in it, and you'll see why. And then I'm going to put a little more crimson. A little more brown, a little more crimson. You stick with the colors you like. Don't worry about when I'm mixing as much. You could just darken that blue just slightly and have a pretty, pretty color. The darkest of the dark, you want this to be a little bit darker. Let's see, is that going to be darker? That's very similar. Let me get me a little more crimson, touch more brown maybe. The brown, the reason I'm putting the brown in is it will give it a little bit of a green cast. That's the only reason I'm using it. And it also dulls it down, makes it a little darker. Let's try this. If I hate this, you don't put this, okay? I'm just going to load this up, chiseled edge on my brush right there. And I'm just going to say somewhere over here. Look at, I've got the photo pulled up on my computer behind me so I can see the old one. And I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Yeah, I think it'll be good. So right in here, I'm just going to trace this out for you in case you don't. Another little one, and it's just going to kind of disappear right there, but it's going to be trees. And it's just going to be these little strike down trees that we do sometimes. I tell you what I liked doing those with. I'll just use that. It's fine. I just want these to be loose and loose. This little bitty things back in here. See the angle I've got on my brush? That always helps to do these. I've got too much paint on my brush. Never said that before. Gotta have paint to paint, but right now I've got too much. There we go. I'm just gonna do them pretty quick, and then I'll go back and fiddle with them. The biggest thing when you do these, make sure you don't have a pattern, you don't have a fence post or something. I'm letting them get smaller, smaller, smaller down through here, but I need to kind of combine them. See that? And then I'll keep working on these. They're not done. I always pull down and kind of crunch the brush at the bottom. Kind of what I like to do. Yeah. There's some trees and whatnot sticking up. Let's just see what we can do with that. Remember our brush. Again, that's your 1 inch or whatever you want to use. I don't want this to get too dark though. I do not want to lose this white. There's a reason. Kind of give them a little pull up now. A little pull up. So I'm going to turn my brush this way so I don't get too much in here. One of my dogs is having a bad dream. Or a good dream, I don't know. We'll have to ask him. Something like that. And I can get rid of ones I don't like. Kind of mist them in. Pick them up. Pick them up. Kind of carry that on out. If I was to get this too, lose too much of my white, I can always just put a little white back in. Slow today, guys. Tuesday, shouldn't be that slow. There we go, something like that, yeah. I really want that white. I also want it to look more foggy, so I'm just adding a little bit of white in there. Tap it in. Get rid of the bottoms of these trees. All that good stuff. Don't know where those end or where they're going to, We'll do one more thing to those. I don't like the bottoms of them. What if they were kind of connected to the foothill? I like that. It's just little tops here and there, and if I've got a bad one, just pull that up. So you play around with it. I'm not going to sit here and do too much. I didn't care for them. This is me being a perfectionist, right? It looked fun. This is where I always take a quick video and turn it into an hour-long video because that would be a little taller. Now's the time, guys, to be looking for those sales on canvases. I got me quite a few nice ones at Michael's. You know. For cheaps. And I know Black Friday and Cyber Monday are over, but they still always run more sales. Don't let them fool you. There. Now I'm a little more happy with it. I like the idea of those there. Kind of needed another little something. I didn't like the way they looked. Now they're fine. And we can do the important parts of the painting. This is just all laying it out for the rest of it. All right, there we go. The rest of it I'll probably do with filbert. Okay, let's paint some trees. We got some big ones to put on here. Let's see. I'm going to take more Prussian blue. I'm just going to add it to the blue I've been using, right? The dark color. And I'm going to take some of my burnt umber, good bits, about equal parts there. Maybe a little bit more burnt umber even. Yeah, a little bit more burnt umber. I have to get a little more out from a tree. I've got a big old a big old deciduous tree on the right here. I think I need a super dark color look. It's almost black, right? Well, of course, we'll highlight it a little bit too. You know, for sake of getting this done a little quicker, I'm just going to use a fan brush, I think. Nope, I said I'd go use a filbert. Let's use it. You know I like the filbert. I don't care how long. Let's see how long the video is now. Oh, we're in good shape. I'm going to use my filbert. Let's go here. Again, just make sure it's staying dark. I got a little white in mine after I mixed it. Okay. There we go. I think that's dark enough. I need it darker than this, right? So a few trees, and the first one, beside where he lives. And you remember what I said about this? Whoop, foot slipped off the wall. I just need to pull. I would never do this with a fan brush. I do it all the time with filbert. But look, I get a little pointy thing at the top, and I'll fix that later. But no pressure on it. Just let it kind of glide down through there. And remember, just because I'm using a filbert doesn't mean you need to use a filbert. Let's just do some nice little evergreens here. I started to do up ones. I kind of like the down ones. That's just me. There was a period in my painting life that all I painted was down trees. Like I hated the up ones. Now I'm into I always paint the up ones. So making sure that I'm going to throw a little more brown and even a little crimson in there to make that color a little darker. Touch more blue, most of my brown. There. I shouldn't have mixed it right where I had it because that color underneath has white in it. So I'm picking up a good bit of that white underneath. All right, I'm going to make a change here, okay? This is painting on the fly. Somewhere I have a little bit of black. I don't use much black. Sometimes to darken, and that's what I'm going to do here. I got such a mess. That's the one reason I don't want you to see my painting palette. Messy. Yeah, that's what I need. And I had a tube of midnight black laying there. That's what I'm putting in here. Mixing it in. So it's going to have all those colors I talked about before. But now it's got a little, oh yeah, there. I want that tree to stand out a little bit. Yeah, go get too fat on me right there. As long as I can see it, I can highlight it a little bit in front of this one, right? So much paint on my brush. Let's do our cheater tree. Fill up the middle, you know, however much. Needs more than that. And then we come back and we start working back and forth, back and forth. There's one little tip about the filbert when you're painting trees with it. Sometimes I will paint the tree with the pan brush, and then I'll just go back and do the highlighting with the filbert. It seems to work fine that way. I can also darken these trees. I know I spend way too much time worrying about what trees look like. But if you know me, you know I love trees, so I want them to look good. Sometimes a scraggly old tree looks good though too. And for this one, yeah, this one just kind of goes all the way down. So imagine there's going to be trees all through there. You don't need to do that if you're painting with me. You don't have to. I'm just going to sock some dark in here. I don't know exactly where this tree lands. I might put a little rock over here under this one. You know, but I want it dark in this corner. I think I've talked about it. If you keep your painting dark on the corners, it draws the eye inward. Somewhere there, yeah. There's that one. Okay. And if I needed to, you know, where I started out using that other color, I could sneak up here and carefully try not to get the tree too big. You know, kind of just put a little bit of the black blue that I have now on here. There, that's fine. You don't want to. I'm about to be a little thicker right in there. There we go. And there's a tree. And then we need, let's say 5, 3, whatever you. Let's do 3. Yeah, let's do 3. Then I'll put another one, and I want to leave just a little separation in here so I see a little bit of that mist and fog. Maybe a little bit right there. So somewhere, I don't know. You know, it doesn't need to be as big. Once you kind of put your mark up here, it's where that tree goes. There it is. Here's the little tip I was going to show you. I think I showed you this in another video. You can always kind of run that paint, grab a little bit of that paint that's there, that's a little thick, and just kind of run it up. You can also do it when I get my script liner out. Sometimes I'll do that. Kind of touch the top up a little bit. Like I said, that's one of the disadvantages of doing trees with the filbert. Now, one way I get around that, if I'm painting for myself, I'll tap a little line on with the fan brush because it's way thinner, right? And then paint it with the filbert. I don't know why I didn't think to show you guys that. I told you, I'm having a slow day. It's the weather. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We did. Lots of good food to eat. I don't know why food is so important at Thanksgiving anymore. Not like we don't. Thankfully, the majority of us eat okay most of the time. I eat too much all the time. I feel guilty and I feel blessed, I guess, at the same time that we have that much food available most days of the year. There's people in this country that are struggling right now. There's people in the world struggling. Yeah, always look back and be thankful for what we've got, I guess. Thanksgiving should be more about being thankful than it should be about the food. But we'll always make it about food. Social gatherings are always about food. Getting on my soapbox here. We had our granddaughter and our daughter and a son-in-law. So family, right? My mother-in-law was here too. Erin cooked. She doesn't like to cook all the time, but she loved to cook on fancy holidays where you're supposed to cook. Banana pudding cheesecake. Homemade. Pretty good. That was our dessert. Something like that. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. And then, yeah, somewhere about right here. Just cut these off a little bit. And not as tall. I don't want this one kind of coming through here. Maybe, I don't like that little guy right there, so let's just put it right here. Here. I said something. Why don't I just do it? Fan brush. Make your little line a little bit nicer. Well, said that and it didn't. There. It's best if I say it and do it. I got my little line I can paint. A little easy little evergreen, right? I'm always turning that filbert a little bit to the side. You can kind of see that angle. I'm not like this. But if you don't like the filbert, don't use it. Sometimes I have to get on to people in class. They're like, well, I don't really care for that. Well, do it a different way. You know, I'm just here to show you how I do it sometimes. As long as you like it, that's all that matters. So if you don't like it, don't use it. Wouldn't want you using something just because. That would be sillies. That would be sillies. Tap that one in here. I don't know, maybe there's, I might put a couple indications of a couple trees in there. I said 5, didn't I? Yeah, let's do just, I tell you what, I kind of like this look sometimes. Let's see what I think. I switch back to the fan. The fan brush has got too much paint on it. I need to clean it off. Switch back to the fan and I can just use it. It'll give me a little different look now. It also has more of that blue paint in it. Kind of filling up this area more than anything. There. Okay. One more, right? We can't leave it like that. Or we can. I kind of like that like that. No. Just a little bitty guy right here. Little bitty guy. Okay, let's grab it. I don't like the fan brush, guys. Little indication of another little tree back in there. Tap those in there. They all live together. Something like that, guys. And then I'd probably take my knife, wipe it off. I didn't wipe mine off, but wipe it off and just run up through here. Watch this. So, whoop, there it goes. This one needs it. It's a little crooked. Uh-oh. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You know, however many of these you want back in there. Don't do too many. I'm trying to get that one to be a little pointier. I'll show you what I do sometimes with that one's okay. Sometimes I'll take the script liner and do that. Okay, now the big guy. And I need some more burnt umber. Burnt umber. Again, I think I mentioned it right when I did the colors. If you're going to get a brown, you're not restricted on what browns you use. Like for certain classes, I have to have certain browns, right? Burnt umber is way prettier brown, if there is a pretty dark brown, than Van Dyke. It just is. So I asked Steve, I said, why did your dad go, because he used burnt umber, because that's what Bill would use. Why did your dad go to Van Dyke brown? And he said it's likely cheaper. And it's not like one of those colors you're looking at saying, God, that's a beautiful color. So, likely cheaper. I'm going to wipe out the excess paint on my brush. Pull that out. Yuck. A lot of paint. I'm going to take a little touch of black that I put out. Remember that? Or midnight black, I think. And put it into my brown. Just to make that brown a little darker. That's all I'm doing. And we're going to push the tree up here. I'm going to go use the filbert for the tree. We're getting close to having this one cranked out. Did I take that all the way? I did. Uh-oh, this is the scary part. Just be brave. Put that filbert up here and go. Look at that. That's a little see-through, so we got to go back over it. You don't want it see-through. Put that down. And this time I'm not pushing quite as hard, so more of the paint will pull off. And maybe flip over to this side. Big old straight telephone pole right there. You know what you're going to do to that one. You could put this on with a knife, you could do whatever. I'm going to highlight it so it really doesn't matter all that much. Let's make sure it's a little bit wider down here at the bottom. And I don't want it to be the exact same thing. We can always add some little bumps and stuff down and through there. Look at that. There we go. And in here, let's see if that color is going to really show up different. I got to remember, I kind of like this one not really having an anchor point. This is more fog right there, but we may change our mind on that. I'm bad to do that. Grab my palette knife. Grab the old palette knife. And some of these brushes out I don't need. I don't need any brushes now. I always have way too many, guys. A little bit of my white and a little bit of the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is my favorite. Like, I rarely put, I'm going to put one little dot of burnt umber in there. Just a little dot. You won't even see it probably. I guess that's probably my, bias with orange. Because it's burnt burnt sienna is a little orange. I actually threw a little bit of the blue in there. You play around with the color. Just marble it. And I'm not going to pick up my camera again and show you the marbled mixture, but it's marbled. Got the little roll of paint. Marbled means just don't mix your color to death. Let it just kind of be. Oh, that's a bright color. Maybe too bright. And I'm just tapping this tree. The only thing that I'm worried about here is that I need to make sure that I tap. Well, one thing, you got to figure out where your light source comes from. I figure it's the brightest right there, maybe in the painting. So this side's going to get most of the highlight for me. So that's your first worry. Your second worry is make sure you're outside this dark a little bit. And then tap. And then tap it into the tree. Right? You've got to kind of let it pick up a little bit of that color underneath. It's just, I'm not going to spend as much time as I normally would on this one because I can do that after the videos. And once I show you kind of how it looks, I'm going to stand up so I can see a little better. Yeah, maybe. Again, just right outside the edge. I don't want to see dark edge. I keep seeing people that are really good at painting leaving dark edges on things. I don't think that's right. I don't know that it's wrong, but I don't like seeing that dark edge on a mountain. I wouldn't want to see a dark edge on this tree because the light's here hitting it. And to get that rounded shape, it needs to have that light on that side. Whoop! Don't do that. Now that's wrong. I have to clean that up real quick. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot of this, by the way. Sometimes less is more. And sometimes, I'll be honest, that putting it on with a knife gets it a little thicker, it seems. But not it seems, it does. Doesn't smooth it out. And I think it does better. But I didn't want to take the time to do that and this for a video. If I was painting one for myself, I may do that. Because I do think it looks, it holds the paint better or something. Maybe it mixes a little bit with it. You know, different things there. A little bit more right there. Okay. That's a nice little tree. Now, here's what you can do. You can take that same color and add that first blue to it. You remember the lightest blue? Add that to your brown. Mostly blue. Add a little brown, your mixture that we've been using for that left side of the tree. Add a little bit of that blue to it. Sorry. Yeah, add a blue to that side. And then we'll just say over here, occasionally, maybe. Sometimes I just like to let my knife just kind of run down through there. I kind of think it looks better. But I'm not going to worry with that too much. I don't need this everywhere back here. This is not one of those areas that has to have. Make sure you don't make your tree messy like I did down there at the base. Doesn't have to have this everywhere. Sometimes it looks better if it doesn't. Yeah, something like that. Now we've got to put some limbs on her. Where are you, script liner? I brought one back here. Oh, come on. How could I? There it is. A little bit of paint thinner, a little bit of linseed oil would work too. I just got paint thinner here, I think. This stuff is old, it probably stinks to high heavens. We'll find out, won't we? It does. Stinks to high heavens. Use the same dark color that you used for the tree. Now, script liner. Make it fairly runny, fairly loose. I want a little more there. I'm using my long-haired script liner. You can use any that you have. Any will work. I like the long-haired ones. And I'm just going to put some little branches out of here. And don't forget that you do need to have a couple just kind of going off this way. It'll look odd if you don't. Reload that. Fix that one. And I usually play around with it, but you never want to just start on the edge of a tree for every branch. You always want to maybe imagine coming right here, or imagine coming right here and starting one, or starting here and going out. That way you'll have branches on closest to you. And you also kind of want to wrap those branches around occasionally. I'll show you what I mean by that. Yeah, I don't want many branches on here. Take away from the painting. Wiggle and jiggle there. Hey. Paint's quite thick. I need a little more paint thinner. Yeah, we've got this one. Make some little noises as you do it. There. I kind of like these long branches, but then I need something off of them. That one may be a little too long. Maybe don't do that one. I don't mind it. These big old trees just have these branches leaning everywhere. Maybe another one. What I was saying by the wrapping around is kind of let one of those come from there and kind of come in front of that tree on the front side. I think it'll look good if I do this one too. It's a little too long. I kind of just let that one have one that kind of goes like that. These little branches off of it. Another one maybe. Yeah, there we go. You know what? I'm going to do another teaching moment here because I don't like something. I'm painting without my glasses here, and I kind of got this one too far. Don't mean to give an excuse. See this? I don't like that. Look what I can do with it. finger paint. Now, not all the time. You couldn't do that all the time, every painting, that easily. But I knew I could do it here. And I wouldn't really notice it. See, I don't notice it there. If you notice things you can fix and you don't like them, like I didn't like that, just fix it. It won't hurt anything. And it's fun to play. It's fun to, that's one way to learn too. I do need to kind of let this one. Here we go. Just kind of fixing up some of these fuzzy ones I got off of it. There, it's a big old strong branch now. I like a lot of branches on it because it kind of shows up in that sky. I did not like that long one. So there you go, another teaching moment. Those are fun to have. I don't mind to make mistakes. Best way to learn. I don't even know if I'd call that a mistake. It was just I didn't care for it. Probably was fun. That's probably enough. A lot of times I imagine these old trees kind of lose their branches as they, as they get older and they grow up. I might put a couple smaller ones up here, just for something. You can just drag a few little spikes. This is a spiky tree. What is that? A locust? Got all those spikes up and down it. And then I will usually do this. You know this. You knew this was coming. Oh. You know what? I'm not going to do it today. Oh. Let's go put a couple down here. I don't want them. I do want to touch up that right here. Then I kind of went outside my tree a little bit there. I'm still going outside my tree. Quit that. If you ever put too much of any of, whether it's the light or the dark, take your dark color, little roll of it. Let's say I want a little more dark showing right in here, or just randomly, put the dark back. Make a little tree hole for your owl to live. Okay. Highlights on our trees and we're done. I gotta clean off my brush though. Cleaning off my filberts. Let me step back. I always like to step back a minute and just see what it looks like on the camera. Make sure I haven't changed the angle or something. Oh yeah. Okay. You can still see that. Pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, I love how I changed that branch. That branch would have been way too long. I could see it on here. Didn't mean for this one to go an hour, but I've had fun painting it. And it looks better than the original, I can tell you that much. This is a sunset scene, right? I said that, I believe. So I don't want to use sap green as a highlight color. I want instead a little phthalo green put out to mix in with some of these blues laying here. Never get rid of your paint, because I'm going to use these lighter colors of blue and put a touch of green in them. Yeah. Until I like it. I'll have to add a little white, right? And I'll need either liquid white or linseed oil or something. I'll probably just use the liquid white that's laying here. I don't want that to be too bright though. The ones that on my original look really cool. I can barely see the highlight. That's kind of what you'd see in a scene like this. In my mind, your mind is different. You don't want to live in my mind. I can tell you that right now. It's closed for repairs. Has been for decades. Okay. I'll show you just kind of the color I would use. This is the first blue we had, and the second blue we had, a little white, and then some phthalo green in there. Kind of a dull blue, almost like a slate blue maybe. Might add just a touch more phthalo green in there. There, that's getting where I want it to be. Yeah, there we go. I think I got it. I have to mix this one a little bit. Make sure I like it. Yeah, that's a little green now. Let's see if we can see it against that white. And then we know that we need a little highlight on these, but not much. Let's make sure it's not too bright as we use it. And I'm going to be very loose. Yeah, see, I don't know if it shows up, but you can barely see it. That's mixing all those and not getting too much white in it. And then that phthalo green. Phthalo green looks more like the green you would see it at sunset, I think, to me. Hitting on trees. It also still stays within that blue color we've been using throughout. Nothing. And there's nothing wrong with using sap green here, by the way. Heck, you've got yellow out, you can make your own green. You got blue and yellow out, you can just make your own. I used almost phthalo green and need just a touch more. Touch more back out. There we go. Well, we're almost there. After the fiasco in the sky, I did not like how that sky was looking to start with, guys, until I added my orange. But your mileage is going to vary, so you may want to use Indian yellow. You may want to start with cat orange. Who knows? You do what you want to do. That's why the best thing about this, we all can be different. All have different taste. I don't need much as I come down through here, but I need a little bit. I'm picking up some of that dark, so I want to keep that out of my highlight color. Picking it up mainly because it's so thick in here. And I didn't use much liquid white because I didn't want to blow my trees out. Sometimes when I run out of paint and I need to reload, I will take my brush and just tap a little of the highlight color into the shadows even. That way it doesn't look like you just have highlights on one side. I mean, that's the way you want it. You don't want highlights on both sides, but it'll add a little bit of that color so it's not so dark. It even shows up better when I'm doing like a brighter scene. I'll show you that one. There we go. That's plenty. Maybe one more hit right here just to accentuate that. There. There. I'm not going all the way down. Well, yeah, let's go all the way down with that one. Just a little bit more, just dance in here a little detail, pull a little detail out of it. And see how it's cut off there, almost squared. Let this one kind of reach over a little bit more. There. The other ones, same thing. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. A little easier to do because it's not as big. I always try to get fan brush is easier for this part. I always just try to get a little touch at the top. I learned that from Steve. Looks nice. So it doesn't just start out dark. There we go. And even when I'm using that filbert and I'm reloading it, I run my paint, the brush through both sides of the brush through, and then I still give that a little push up, almost like I'd be loading a 1-inch brush. I think it loads a little more paint on the end of the bristles and it works better. And you can see I'm being super selective here, right? Bouncing around at this point. Probably just a hint of color on these couple guys back here. Don't even have to really have much. Something like that. And then the last one needs a little bit. There, there. Maybe all the way across on that one. Let your highlight color sometimes just kind of hang out. You can always, mess with your tree too. It can hang out a little more. extend the branch a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now, this is where I said if I run out of paint, I'll just sometimes go over here on that shadow side. It'll add a little bit of that to the dark, and I think it looks nice. There we go. Now, because I like to punish myself, I don't want that to be the way it looks, so I'm going to change it. The grassy stuff under the trees, I should have mentioned what I'm talking about. What if this may be too bright? Kind of that same color we use for the tree. Put a little bit of this in here. There. Just a little indication of something happening in there. There we go. Maybe a little bit back in there even, who knows. Don't let it get too bright. Just kind of run that. And then I would probably go back, where's my fan brush? There it is. Go back here. And you can always just kind of knock it down with some dark if you need to, just kind of pushing up. You know, if I got it too bright somewhere, just knock it back in there. You just want it to be there, but you don't want it to stand out. If that makes any sense at all. Now I'm filthy. And maybe just some on the edge here, there's just a little grass or something. You know, if I can make it look like grass. Kind of pushing up on that fan brush. And then last two things, maybe. No paint even. You can load paint if you want, but maybe there's just a... I need a little bit of paint. Better load a little bit. Rounds my brush. Had a little too much paint there. What's going on here? I've got to do some serious cleaning of my script liners. They're a little gunky. You don't have to do this part for sure. I don't know that I like it. Maybe one of those things I get rid of. Do I have a 1-inch somewhere? There it is. When I said two things, now it's going to be three things. You know me if you've watched me enough. It's a little indication. I didn't care for that. So I'm just putting a little touch of green grass or something at the top of this little thing here. Just kind of let that be. Now, it always looks better if you don't have it just one place. Maybe there's a little touch of that green color in here. See, I'm being very particular with it, right? Okay, sign her up. Be done. See where I want to sign it. Probably over here on the left. So I'll need that good and thin. And because I have orange in the sky. If I have orange out, I'll usually use orange for my signature. Put it right in that tree. Make it a little brighter. And just a little liquid white to make it really bright. You probably wouldn't like that. Unless you like orange. Sherbet. Kind of what it looks like. And we are done. We'll give this a straight on shot and see what we think. I like it. Very simple painting. You don't have to take as long as I did, but I'm fiddling with it too much. Grab me. Oh, I get no money from this, okay? This is not a sponsored thing. These work great. Tumble towels. Lowe's and Home Depot both carry them. They smell good too. They're citrusy smelling. So I'll show you my hand. Show you my hand. Look at that. Right off. Yeah, scrub it right off. Take it off clothes and stuff too. They're for paint. So get you some of those. 17 bucks maybe for a good size bucket of them almost. Okay, let's pause it. There's our little Smoky Mountain Sunset. I like the foothills. Even though I couldn't see my sketch, I like how they turned out. So there we go. Another video. We'll keep trying to do these once a week. Once a week. That's my goal. At least until my trees come back out. Alright everybody, I'll see you here next week. I don't know what day I'll release this one. I'll see you here next week, and then we'll keep on going, okay? Everybody take care. See you down the road.